Hello and welcome back to Bookish theories. In today's video, we'd like to talk about Tumoroubai투게더's Good Boy Gone Bad, focusing on a little breakdown of the story told in the Japanese MV, as well as its connections to their previous songs. Now, much like the Korean version of the song, this Good Boy Gone Bad is a track that describes the pain of a boy experiencing his first breakup during his transition between youth and adulthood. In the Korean video, the heartbreak associated to this farewell was portrayed with the tragic death of the good boy at the hands of the bad boy, and if you want to know more about that, I have a full video breaking down that concept and the message behind it. This time around, however, the video interprets this theme in a very different way, because instead of focusing on the inner transformation of Thursday's child, we actually get to see the events that led the boys to go bad to begin with. As we see from the very beginning, for instance, the video follows the aftermath of Yeonjun's heist back in Loser Lover. Back then, the concept was about a boy who is seen as a loser by the world that surrounds him, but still wanted to become the lover of their one and only. Despite his desire to escape the reality that marginalized him, however, he also had to come to terms with the fact that in order to run away with his lover, he needed money to do so. This is because a lover with a dollar sign is still a loser, meaning that even if you only care about dreams and ideals, if you don't have the money to access them, you're still a loser in the eyes of society. In the story, Yeonjun's character is made well aware of his place in the world, because as soon as he goes to withdraw money at the ATM, the screen lets him know that he has less than $2 in his bank account. Understanding that he doesn't have the means to run away with his lover, Yeonjun is overcome by desperation and steals a bag full of money in order to escape the reality that failed him, but soon enough he realizes that he and his loved one are not on the same page. He may be ready to leave everything behind just to be with her, but she sure isn't, so after an argument the two break up and Yeonjun is left alone on the brink of chaos. Losing his lover made him realize that he will always be a loser in the eyes of the world, and the same goes for the others just as well, each of which had to deal with their own struggles in a world that doesn't understand them. As the members reunite, the loser lover ended with them eventually deciding to rebel against society, escape the world once and for all, and run away without looking back. The money that they desperately wanted at the beginning is now thrown away in an act of defiance against the society that made them losers, and as they jump off the highway and attempt to fly, the boys cross the point of no return and willingly fall into the abyss of chaos. This is where the Japanese Good Boy Gone Bad takes off, and in a very symbolic way we can say that that's the moment where the good boy dies for the bad boy to be born. Now, to be fair, at this point one might argue that Tumoroubai투게더 were never really good to begin with, because a good boy would never rob an ATM, pick a fight, or destroy public property. In a sense, this is completely right, because from a social standpoint at least, they were always a bit of a menace. We saw them pickpocketing, stealing cars, stealing money, setting fires, breaking and entry, fighting, destroying things, causing accidents, all of which are admittedly not what a good boy would do. Since the very beginning, they were the monsters to shame, they were the devils, the pumas to kill, as well as the losers in this game of life. If you think about it, the only times where they were good is when they were good out of love, because it's the love that they received that made them want to be good and do better. This is also something that they say themselves in 0x1 Love Song, where Subin reveals that even if they're not good enough to go to heaven, their you is like an angel that brings them there. From day one, it was always love that made their angel side come out. It was always love that saved them, what made them feel accepted, and what made them want to try harder. But after their downfall, that part of them died, which is also why they were portrayed as fallen angels. Their angel side fell because their lover broke their heart, and in Good Boy Gone Bad we discovered that she did that and much more. In the aftermath of their downfall, we see that Yeonjun tries to contact his ex, and even if we see that she kept the money from the heist, the girl not only doesn't reply, but she literally calls the police to rat him out. This is the final betrayal that leads to the birth of the bad boy, and fittingly enough, this part of the story is set on a Thursday, thus making the bad boy a Thursday's child. As we catch up with the other members, we see that they're not doing much better either, and this concept is also reinforced with a lot of parallels to their previous songs. Bongyo's character, for instance, is introduced in his bedroom in the middle of a fit of rage. As he destroys his guitar, we see a direct callback to his breakdown in Loser Lover, and later on the scene is referenced once again when he throws yet another guitar at the TV broadcasting Yeonjun's crime. When he turns into a bad boy, moreover, we see a tattoo on his throat of 5 broken hearts, which actually references the heartbreak that they suffered. Back in Minisode 1, Bongyo had a tattoo of blooming flowers, but now that their love is gone, the symbol of their love has turned to ash, and the flowers are now replaced by broken hearts. When we reunite with Subin, on the other hand, we see a callback to his own scene from Loser Lover. He's sitting at a table, closing a laptop, but if in the past he was with his loved one, now he's alone and ripping a picture referencing that date. The change in his life is also reinforced by the contrast between the orange and blue sweaters. When he was loved, he wore a warm color symbolizing happiness and energy, while now he's wearing a cold color associated to sadness and memory. When he turns into a bad boy, the tattoo on his throat is very reminiscent of Yeonjun's injury in Nap of a Star, while the tattoo on his arm is like a voodoo teddy bear that heavily recalls the teddy that is not a teddy bear from the Dream Chapter era. With Yunin Kai, on the other hand, we see several references to 0x1 Love Song. When he's approached by the woman, for instance, him looking at the tank is a direct callback to the scene of Yeonjun doing the same thing. In both cases, this is a very symbolic action because the aquarium is usually used as a symbol of happiness in the dream. Them looking at the fish in the tank is like them getting lost in their mind as they recall the happiness of the past. In 0x1 Love Song, Yeonjun was getting lost in his own darkness, so he imagined an adventure with his friends in order to cope with the sadness. In Good Boy Gone Bad, instead, they're saying goodbye to the version of them they created out of love, so Yunin Kai is understandably longing for that happy past to come back. Later on, moreover, Yunin Kai sees a flying fish in the sky, once when he is alone, and once when he's running away with the others in the car. This is an obvious reference to them escaping reality in 0x1 Love Song, but the flying fish also appeared in yet another escape, because it also showed up in the Runaway VCR from the Eternity Comeback show. Considering that the fish always appears when they want to run away from their problems, it possibly symbolized their wish to escape in the world of their imagination instead of keeping on suffering in reality. In the same VCR, we can also see a car flying to Magic Island, and this is a visual that heavily recalls the end of Loser Lover. This is because the intention is pretty much the same. In both cases, they wanted to escape the world and run away together, but if in Runaway they succeeded, in Loser Lover they fell in the attempt of flying, with the good boy essentially dying in the crash. When it comes to Taeyeon instead, his scene focuses on a flashback of happier days. Much like in Loser Lover, we see him riding a skateboard in front of his girlfriend, but the ring on her finger is later shown abandoned in a sink, thus suggesting the sad ending of their relationship. According to Taeyeon, the ring is also a reference to the song Ring, which describes the sadness of a person who cannot imagine loving someone else after their loved one took off their ring and left. Much like in 0x1 Love Song, however, we see that despite the heartbreak, Taeyeon is still a lover, thus referencing the cast also seen in the Chaos chapter. Now, even if in the video the girl that we see with Taeyeon is the same one that we see with Yeonjun, Subin and Yunin Kai, this doesn't mean that they're all dating the same girl, because on Weverse, Taeyeon confirmed that his girlfriend from GBGB is meant to be the same lady from Loser Lover. Back in that video, they were all dating different women, so in Good Boy Gone Bad, they probably used the same actress as a token girlfriend for all the boys. In this context, she basically embodies the you that saved them in 0x1 Love Song. She's the you they wanted to run away with in Loser Lover, as well as the you that ended up being a lesson in Valley of Lies. To make it simple, she's not really playing a single character, but rather the concept of a loved one who saved them first but betrayed them next. In the video, we see that after the heist, the members ran away together and found a safe place to hide in. Initially, their escape is very successful because we see them having fun and enjoying the freedom by playing with the money that they stole. Soon enough, however, we see that the CCTV recording of the heist is being shown on the news, and this pushes Bongyu to destroy the TV and the group as a whole to flee once again. As we see them stealing a car to escape, we can actually see Yeonjun's car right next to it, thus showing that them jumping off a cliff was more of a metaphorical event rather than anything else. They jumped off in the sense that they went off the rails, they embraced the chaos and decided to fully rebel against society, but they didn't actually jump because the death of the good boy is symbolical rather than physical. After stealing the car, we follow the boys as they find yet another place to hide, but this time they're not as lucky because the police finds them and beats them up. Once again, the members seem able to run away, but when they go back to their hideout, we see their growing fear in realizing that their world is literally crashing down. In the video, we even see Taeyeon and Bongyu fighting among themselves, but their fight is eventually cut short by the police finally catching up. While Subin and Yeonjun burn the money to destroy the evidence, Yunin Kai locks the door in a desperate attempt at stalling. Now, this is actually a very interesting part, because in many respects, the chase scene shown in the video is very reminiscent of the lyrics of PUMA, where the animal was being chased in a very similar way. Much like the boys themselves, the PUMA of the song was initially a victim of the environment that trapped it, but once it got free, it became a dangerous threat because it couldn't be controlled by the society that wanted to chain it. With the good boys eventually going bad, we see that their inner Pumas are becoming free once again. If back then we saw them breaking the chains, the same thing took place in Thursday's Child as well, so the two songs are essentially showing the very same process. If the Pumas of the song weren't sure where to go, the same applies for the boys in the video, who eventually split up in a desperate attempt to escape. By the end, we see that each of them has a very different fate. Subin, for instance, ends up getting caught. We see Hyun Kai being surrounded by police, presumably on the verge of getting arrested. Bongyu runs away on his bike but falls like we saw in Drama and Lose Her Lover. Taeyeon manages to get home safely, while Hyunjin drives away alone in his car. By the end of the video, their downfall is complete because they not only lost their lover, but they also lost their freedom and each other. The good boy is dead once and for all because there is nothing left for them to hold on to. There's no light that can save them this time, which actually brings us right back to 0x1 Love Song, where Hyunjin is seen alone as he finds comfort in a happy fantasy. Considering the parallels between 0x1 and GBGB, it's almost like the two videos are offering two different perspectives on the aftermath of the heist. You have the rage of the bad boys rebelling against society and paying the price of their rebellion, and then you have the sadness and isolation of the loser who is left alone to deal with the abyss of chaos. One shows the harsh reality they wanted to escape, while the other shows the desired destination of that escape, which is none other than a world where they can be free to be whoever they want. Since in reality this type of freedom is impossible to achieve, Hyunjin had to rely on his imagination in order to accomplish this task, but back in 0x1 Love Song, Hyunjin lost himself to follow this comforting fantasy. One thing that we must not forget, however, is that Thursday's Child still has far to go, so even if for now their destiny seems pretty grim, their story is far from over. To see how it will continue, we'll have to wait and see, but in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.